So we've been mentioning age verification and identity verification. And based on my research, that one is largely, it is both COSA and the Screen Act, but I'm mostly seeing it with the Screen Act, which I have not been hearing about very much. I had to really dig to find information about this one. So again, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I understand it correctly, the Screen Act is an age verification bill. Like there's kind of not much else to it.
It's an identity verification bill.
Identity. Yes, thank you. I should really start saying that instead of age verification. So it would require platforms to verify users. Is this, again, because it's kind of hard to find information about this one, is this like just across the board all platforms, or are they trying to sell this as one of those like, oh, only larger platforms, or how is that one supposed to work?
Yeah. So this came out of anti-porn groups and these extreme far right sort of Project 2025, Heritage Foundation affiliated groups and so did COSA, to be clear. These are both originated in these far right anti-LGBTQ circles where they thought, okay, how can we get LGBTQ content off the internet? We designate it as profane, which they also designate any sort of sex ed education as profane. And then we force it through Congress by saying, oh, we'll protect the kids from porn. What they mean by porn is sex ed, abortion information about feminism, like LGBTQ content. And by the way, I'm not making like Mike Masnick at TechDirt has done a great job of the Heritage Foundation coming out and saying this. Like they're saying it publicly. It's not even a secret. They're like, yes, we can't wait to get this content off the internet. And so they want to do that through identity verification. As you mentioned, the Screen Act is more overt than COSA, but both of them have the exact same effect. The Screen Act is just like anything that has adult content, which is literally anything because again, adult content is completely subjective. And if you look at for instance, that was some sort of Trump terror memo called NSPM 7 where they designate who's hostile to America, who's considered a terrorist, and it's just like anybody that is against quote unquote American values, anybody that's against quote unquote Christian values. These are all highly subjective things. So it's similar with the Screen Act where it's like adult content just is any content that the government doesn't like. So we saw this happen with the Online Safety Act. We have here the Kids Online Safety Act. In the UK back in 2023, they passed the Online Safety Act, which just went into effect a couple months ago. And that's why you saw, for instance, the subreddit for war crimes was removed under these porn laws or whatever, because any sort of police violence video, people speaking out against sexual assault, rape victims, Alcoholics Anonymous forums have been shut down. Actually, all these places for kids to report incidents of molestation and things like that have been shut down. So that is the type of content when you see adult content that's quote unquote not safe for kids. That's the type of content that they're seeking to regulate. And yes, it would remove anonymity from the internet basically completely.
So this would require, again, like all platforms, because the common argument is like, when I go buy alcohol, I have to show ID, right?
Whoa. And no, you don't. Identity verification is nothing like showing your ID in the real world, the IRL world. Let's say, first of all, you don't show your identification to every single person that you interact, to every single store that you walk in. On walking in, before you can even walk in, you have to show ID, maybe to a bar, but certainly not to buy things or to engage, to access information. And then your ID, your government ID, is not tied to every single piece of content that you read. It's not stored forever when you go to the library or when you go to a bookstore to buy a book, and then your government ID is stored and they can monitor every single word that you've read, and then that can be used in a court case against you. There's actually nothing like that. Not to mention, it's a quick ID check. A human being looks at it quickly, doesn't memorize the info, doesn't, checks there and then moves along. Here, it's stored in a database forever that we know has absolutely no privacy. These databases leak constantly. This is a massive data privacy concern. And that data is then used forever, can be used to target you, exploit you. And often they're harvesting not just your offline, like address, physical, they are harvesting biometric data that is tied to it as well.
One thing I noticed with a lot of these laws is that they're vague, specifically when they talk about identity verification, and they leave it up to the platforms to decide how to implement this. Do you think that's a better way? Actually, maybe this isn't even a good question in light of this conversation.
I think I know what you're getting at. A lot of times lawmakers will leave sort of specifics around identity verification in vague terms to argue that they're not technically mandating, identity verification. That's such a lie. Like, they know exactly what they're doing, and they know what they're doing because the identity verification lobby has basically written half of these bills, this massive they're about to get billions of dollars if these laws pass. So, but it's also just like a farce. There is no way to verify anybody's offline identity in any sort of platform, whether you're a third party platform or like a major platform, without violating their privacy. It just doesn't exist. You have to either harvest their like biometric data, but even if you harvest the biometric data, that biometric data and then your behavior patterns can easily be tied to your offline identity, or you have to, verify things with your offline identity and often confirm things in other ways. But there is no privacy forward way to verify your identity because they have to harvest a lot of information to verify your identity. And anytime you're trying to cordon off parts of the internet for children or make things safe for children and try to age gate anything of the internet, a lot of people hear, oh, age verification. Okay, so kids will have to verify their ages. No, in order to know who's a child, everybody has to give up their information. And in case you weren't like thinking like, oh, maybe you're still giving them the benefit of the doubt, let me tell you, I was at the Biden White House last August at this big day that they had for content creators to push their agenda, whatever. Neera Tanden, a major Biden, White House advisor, got up on stage and said, "We are going to remove anonymity from the internet. Don't you wish you could unmask every troll?" Is how they were selling, because they also try to sell these things as some sort of answer to online bullying, even though we know actually removing anonymity doesn't help bullying at all. Like literally go to the Facebook comment section of any post, you can see people are happy to bully under their government names.